Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we've been working through a renovation on a 1956 Calcraft, and as we're getting further along in that renovation, we're considering what do we do with our Season 1 camper, our 1968 Playmore Model 140. We've been kind of thinking maybe we're going to sell it. With that in mind, I want to talk about a little bit different subject today, and one that I think is important and affects a lot of those of us that are into vintage campers, and certainly those of us that are into rebuilding very, very bad vintage campers. So let's talk about titles. Still has that new camper smell. The reason I'm talking about titles today is because I've done a stupid thing. I don't have a title for this camper, and I need to get one. Because to legally sell a piece of property like a camper, you have to legally own it. So if you are not on the title, you don't legally own it. So as we consider selling this one, we've been looking at the used market, and we've known this to be true for a while, but we see lots and lots of people listing campers for sale that don't have titles, and we see lots of people buying campers that are listed without a title, and that can be dangerous. But I get it. There's all of these old campers just sitting out in fields rotting away. Nobody knows who owns them. Nobody's got a title for them anymore, and you think like, well, it's just a little camper. I'll give this person a little bit of money, and then I'll take it home, rebuild it, and I'll use it for my family, and we'll go camping in it. No big deal. Well, some states, including the state of Kansas, considers any RV to be a living space, and so they're very, let's say, guarded about titles and registration. So you have to have the title to register it. You have to have it registered to use it on the road. That is not what I was told originally when I was buying a camper. So let me talk a little bit about our vintage camper journey. So way back in 2012, we had an idea for a business in a vintage camper. So we looked around, found one, bought it, got a bill of sale for it, converted it to a mobile studio and darkroom. At the time, I went into the DMV and I asked them about title and all this stuff, and the person at the counter said, oh, well, if it's under 2,000 pounds, you don't even need to tag it. And I said, okay, what about a title? He said, oh, it's like a vintage car. You just need a bill of sale. So I was like, oh, okay, great. Well, I didn't plan on taking it out of the state, so I didn't really worry about having a tag on it. And I thought like, well, someday I'll sell it and I'll work out the title then. I'll take my bill of sale in and handle all of that. So when we decided to sell that 67 Conestoga that we originally bought, I said, I should probably get the title for this. There was a guy that was interested from Arkansas. So I went into the DMV and they were like, no, you have to have a title. If bill of sale only works for vintage automobiles. So in the state of Kansas, if you have a vintage car that's been sitting out in a field or something and no one's got the title for it, you can do a bill of sale, you can go in, have it inspected, get a title for it, register it, no problem. But apparently, vintage campers don't follow the same rules. Personally, I think they should. I think there's far more of these out rotting in fields that nobody knows who owns them, nobody cares anyway because they're not safe to travel on the road in their current state. And it takes so much work and expertise to rebuild one. Regardless. So I said to the guy, hey, I'm in a bit of a situation for getting the title. And he said, well, let me just talk to my local DMV. And he was able to register it in Arkansas. And he was able to show up with a tag and take it. So we sold that one, and it's gone. So that brings me up to this camper. And us considering selling it, we need to sort out the title for it. And certainly if you have a camper that you're looking to sell, be aware you can probably get a lot more money for it if you have a title for it. If you don't, you just have to find some sucker that's willing to buy it without a title. I went to the DMV on the advice of a lawyer that we've worked with for our business in the past, and he said, take the bill of sale, take a salvage title application in with you and just see what happens and see if you can get some questions. They can tell you maybe more of what they need. So I went in, the lady I talked to at the counter looked it up on the computer and said, well, that's not the right name. And she said, hang on. And she left. She came back with a supervisor and he said, well, this is interesting, which is, of course, never what you want to hear from the DMV. But essentially, he said, in the state of Kansas, there's no way around it. You need a title. So you need to go back to the person that you bought it from, the person that's on the bill of sale, and see if they can clear up the title for you. And I said, so she just needs to apply for a replacement title? And he kind of, and I said, oh, I see. She's not the person on the bill of sale. He said, well, I can't say. I said, it doesn't surprise me. I went back to my lawyer and I said what I found out, and he said, let's do what's called a quiet title. So we're in the process of doing a quiet title, but essentially, if my understanding is correct, you're going to sue someone for ownership of that property, and a judge will make a ruling on it and quiet any dispute over the title and award it to you, and then you can take that judgment to the DMV, get your title, and do your inspection and registration. Super simple. Kind of expensive, but that's how you got to do it in the state of Kansas. So, what are the lessons we've learned here? 1, don't buy a camper without a title. 2, don't listen to your average person at the DMV because they don't necessarily know what they're talking about. You really need to talk to a supervisor, or you need to call your Department of Transportation's actual office and actually talk to someone. We asked on Instagram if any of you have had similar experiences, if you've had any horror stories, and a lot of the responses said like, well, if you have the title, it wasn't that big a deal. Well, yeah, if you have the title, then no big deal. One other thing that people kind of mentioned on our response to our questions on Instagram was that potentially you could title something as home built. Yes, you could do that sometimes. I'm pretty sure our Calcraft, because it is such a complete rebuild to where the frame is even rebuilt, I'm pretty sure I could get away with titling that as a home built. The thing with that is usually you lose some value on the camper titling it as home built, and sometimes you have a little bit more difficulty finding insurance for it. So it's better if you can just get the proper title in your name. The other thing you sometimes have a problem with is that the legal definition of a home-built camper can be kind of specific. I had talked to a state trooper about doing that for this Playmore, and he kind of felt like it did not pass the definition of a home-built camper. So another problem with working on the title on some of these old campers is that a lot of times, before 1980 something, campers didn't have VIN numbers. They might have had a serial number, and that serial number might have been on the frame, or it might have been just on a plaque on a wall, or it might have been written inside of a cabinet. There's a lot of different places it could have been, and that may not exist anymore. So it makes tracking down who the proper person on the title somewhat difficult. Like the Calcraft, I don't think the number that was on the frame was on the title. And I know there are things out there called like the Vermont Loophole, and where you can register a camper there and then take that registration to potentially get a title places. Yeah, good luck with that. I think they've kind of closed some of those loopholes, but maybe there are some that are still out there. So leave a comment here and let me know what your experiences have been titling campers, and certainly if you had one without a title and had to go through a process to get a title for it. I'd be interested to hear what other people have had to go through. I'll keep you all updated on how this process goes, and if it winds up being relatively simple, then I'm going to be doing it again. Thanks for watching, and make sure and like and subscribe so that you can find out the update on this whenever it gets finished. Plus, this camper will be for sale. Anyway, we'll see you next time.